thanks. It's great to be here, and I'm pleased to be able to welcome all of you. We're very happy to be able to host this workshop this morning. As I was trying to prepare for my thoughts or comments this morning, I couldn't help but wonder why we aren't doing a MOOC symposium in a MOOC format. But it's really great to have you all on campus, and hopefully this will be a very useful and helpful day for you. 4.5 years ago, shortly after I arrived at Georgia Tech, we undertook the development of a strategic plan to try to understand what Georgia Tech might be like in 20 or 25 years. What I think is a little remarkable is we had a whole bunch of very, very smart people from across the campus and across the university trying to understand what might happen in the next 20 or 25 years. And within about 18 months, we saw the advent and tremendous explosion of technology-assisted learning. And while that was forecasted or foreseen or foreshadowed in some of the work we did in our strategic plan, I don't think anybody that worked on the strategic plan really understood the extent to which it could or might change the way we think about higher education or education in general. Shortly after we completed the plan, about a year or so, 2 years ago, our provost, Raphael Bras, came to me and said, "Bud, we're Georgia Tech. We're the Georgia Institute of Technology. We need to be involved more heavily in this technology-assisted learning." Now, that's not a new area for us. We've actually been working in technology-assisted learning for about 35 years. We started with the distribution of videotapes in beta format, actually some in beta format for distance education, and that's kind of the way we started. But Raphael said we needed to get more involved. And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, I want to teach courses." And I said, "What does that cost?" And he said, "Well, it's $50,000 a course." So we invested some resources into that and opened up our first group of 5 courses using this massive open online format and had 20,000 students enrolled the first day. And that gave us some idea of how this was going to develop and the pace at which it was changing. I talked to Raphael the second day. I really didn't get any input or feedback the first day, but I asked him, "How's the enrollment looking on the second day?" And he said, "Well, the train has left the station, and there's good news and bad news." And I said, "Well, what's the good news?" He said, "The good news is we're on the train." I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, "We have no idea where it's going." But we are heavily engaged in this. One of the things that we recently did was to announce the establishment of the first online master's program for credit that would identify a mechanism by which we could monetize this MOOC format. Regent Dean Alford, we had talked to Regent Dean Alford, who's a Tech alum and is out here. Thank you for being here, Regent Alford, about what we were doing, and he suggested that we talk and address and discuss with the regents some of what we were doing and some of what we were thinking. And I will tell you that one of the concerns the regents had in that meeting was that we were offering courses at that time, 5 courses to about 250,000 students around the world for free, and giving away our educational content. And so one of the things that we worked on rather diligently was to try to understand how to monetize this, and we think that this master's, this online master's in computer science, which I'm sure you'll hear more about today, is going to help us do that. We started we announced it in May. We started the admission process about 3 weeks ago. We admitted students for, I think, 2 weeks. We had about 2,500 applications for the degree program for about 400 spots. We were surprised a little bit by those applications. There weren't quite as many as we thought there might be. 80% of them were from the U.S. That was a bit of a surprise because we thought they'd be much more international in nature. And much to my dismay and the dismay of others, only about 350 of those 2,500 were from females. We thought that the use of technology-assisted education might result in a more evenly distributed gender parity within the program. But we're very excited about it. We'll start teaching the courses in January. I refer to it as a pilot, not an experiment, because experiments fail and pilots don't. So we're very excited about that. But when I think about this technology-assisted education, technology-assisted learning, and what's happening, it really is a very exciting and at the same time a very scary time for higher education. And I think it's exciting because it's changing the way we think about many of the things we do. Like most of the institutions that you came from, we started our classes in mid-August, and we will end the regular academic year in May. And we do that because the students harvest the crops in the August, and they plant them in the early spring. And we have to be ready to do that. But the technology-assisted learning will force us, I think, to rethink this idea of learning has to be conducted or performed or you have to be engaged in a 15-week semester, and you have to go the entire 15 weeks in order to be successful. We will move, I think, from a calendar-based educational model to one that's competency-based. So when someone has reached a certain level of competency, they'll be able to move on. The thing about our current semester system is that when you get to the end of the semester, you're finished whether you're done or not. And it's going to cause us to try to rethink that particular aspect. I think it will also cause us to rethink the definition of success, of how we view academic success. Today, most of us view academic success as taking a 15-week course and completing that course and getting a letter grade. And one of the things you hear said often about these massive open online courses is, yeah, you've got a faculty member that's teaching 40,000 students, but only 10% of those students complete the course. Well, there's 40,000 students that listened to at least one lecture or heard or engaged in at least one discussion and now have some knowledge that they didn't have before. And so success, as opposed to being defined as completing a 15-credit or 15-week semester-long course and getting a letter grade, maybe success will be defined as from the perspective of, you know, I actually learned something. We have Linda Daniels, who worked in the system office for a while, now works here at Georgia Tech, took a course in sustainability. I was talking with her when we were in the very early stages of our courses, and she said she was taking a course in sustainability from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And I said, how many students are taking it? She said 10,000, but we're down to about 1,000 now. But there's still 9,000 students in that course that have gained some knowledge and gained some information and benefit because of their experience. The third point I'd want to make on the exciting part is the exchange of information and the way that information is being exchanged. I think one of the reasons that we've seen this massive explosion in technology-assisted learning, as I mentioned, we've been doing it for a long time, a lot of people have, but I think the reason that we're seeing this tremendous change and explosion is really the result of the students that are taking the course, their familiarity with virtual communications and the way they interact with each other in a virtual environment. I do not have any friends that I don't know, but I trust me, our students have thousands of friends that they don't know and that they've never met. And they're very, very comfortable exchanging information in this virtual type of environment. In fact, sometimes I'm surprised or appalled at some of the information that they're willing to share with the entire world. We actually advise our students early on in their academic experience to be careful about what they share, because we see employers that are going to a student's Facebook page when they interview them to see what do they really like, or what are they like when they're not wearing their coat and tie or their pantsuit and prepared and are well prepared for an interview. The other part of this is that it's a little scary. And the reason I say it's scary is because none of us really know where it's going. It's changing. It's going to change the way we educate our students. I believe it will help improve the way we educate our residential students, but it will change the way we educate students. If you look at the university system of Georgia, we have 313,000 students in the university system. I don't know how many of those students are in a residential campus, but I'll say 200,000. And that's probably a number plus or minus 50,000 that's correct. But that leaves 113,000 students that are driving somewhere to take a course and driving back. And this approach is probably an approach that could be very beneficial to them. So it's going to change the way we think about education. It's going to change the way we think about how we deliver education, both to our on-campus students and our off-campus students. And it's also going to change the way we live our lives. And that's one of the things that makes it really scary. The rate of change, the rate of pace, or the rate of change, or the pace of change, I think is what's really scary. I spoke at the CoLab summit that was here a couple of weeks ago, Tom Friedman spoke. He talked about when he wrote his first, well, it wasn't his first book, but the book that gained great popularity, The World is Flat. That was about 10 years ago. He actually talked about Georgia Tech in that book. But he said that when he was writing his second book, That Used to Be Us, he went back to the first book in that series, The World is Flat, to see what he'd said about Facebook. And when he did that, he realized that Facebook didn't exist, that Twitter was a nervous laugh, LinkedIn was a prison, big data was a rap star, 4G was a parking space, and the cloud was still in the sky. None of those things existed when he wrote The World is Flat and talked about how hyper-connected the world is today. So we got a challenge. We as educators have a tremendous challenge ahead of us. And that challenge, I think, is how do we use technology-assisted learning to try to enhance the educational experience for all of our students, for the students that are in remote sites, that are in distant places, and for our students that are here on campus. I wish you all the best in trying to solve all those issues and resolve all those problems, and hope you have a good experience here at Georgia Tech. But thank you very much for being here, and good luck.